for this video, it was recommended to me by Jarkner. Jarkner recommended this video in the Discord. By the way, if you would like to recommend videos for our React Tuesdays, please join the Discord. That is we have a full channel dedicated to sending me videos that I can react to. I'm going to be pulling mostly from that from now on, rather than just videos that I find. So if you want to see something on the React, please use that channel in the Discord to let me know that's something you want to see. But yeah, this is sent to me by Jarkner. It's talking about how fun should always triumph before balance does. It's by Bricky, a very, very large YouTuber. Yeah, it's interesting because that's something that appeals to a lot as DVD players, because our game started off as kind of like a fun party game, and kind of is slowly devolving into a overbalanced kind of like sweaty mess. So it's kind of taking a lot of fun out of the game. So let's see how this relates to kind of like the struggles that we've had to deal with.
This is the GeForce RTX 3060 gaming laptop. It has an NVIDIA RTX 3060 GPU, 16 gigabytes of DDR5 memory, and an AMD Ryzen 9 processor. And it was provided by our fantastic sponsor, the one and the only Best Buy.
Best Buy?
This right
Wow.
here has been my workhorse.
That's where Justin works.
Ever since I got it. The build is excellent. The weight is really
You have
solid,
this?
and
Oh.
I enjoy the
Is it good?
quite a bit. Not to mention the fantastic specs and the new NVIDIA DLSS software. If you haven't used it yet, the NVIDIA DLSS, or Deep Learning Super
Also,
Sampling
Reaper works.
technology, allows
A lot
you
of
to tap
our
into
friends
a
work at Best
deep
Buy.
learning and neural network and use AI to boost frame rates and performance across the board, as well as graphical increases. This Asus gaming laptop is a champ because NVIDIA GeForce RTX GPUs can utilize
my main monitor. That's
DLSS
what I play on straight
and
ahead.
give games a speed and performance boost with
Actually, all three of my
uncompromised
monitors are
quality
Asus now.
for the
I just realized.
gaming
I forgot I
experience.
replaced one.
And if you
Yeah,
want to use
all
it
my
for
monitors are
yourself,
Asus.
all you need to do is look for the NVIDIA GeForce RTX badge on your device that you can see on screen now to know that it is optimized for DLSS. Truth be told, this laptop right here is the strongest one I've ever owned.
Mods
This
or
thing is
monitors? No,
honestly a
monitors.
champ. I
Monitors.
play a
All my
wide
monitors are Asus.
variety of games on it in a wide variety of locations, and it handles all kinds of games, whether they're very graphically heavy or just very processor heavy.
Amazing. That's good.
Super easily because of all of that DLSS tech. And it's also due to the big help of Best Buy, which
Yay,
if you're
Best
somehow
Buy.
not familiar, they are the leading brand in a myriad of tech products, and I shop there like genuinely pretty regularly. They provided me with this Asus gaming laptop.
Asus.
And if you want to check
Oh, the way it
out
says
the
Asus,
laptop,
Asus.
utilize the new
Asus.
NVIDIA DLSS technology, or take a look at all of Best Buy's
Like you're saying Jesus in
industry-leading
Spanish.
services
Jesus.
and products, or perhaps
Good old
maybe
Jesus.
a little bit of all three. You should check out the description and the link down there. Thank you very much, Best Buy, for sponsoring me, and let's go ahead and get started with the video. Hello, everybody. My name is Bricky, currently serving at 10 to life for taking eating ass literally. This is the first video of me standing. It may not be the first video I release of me standing, but it is the first video of me now standing for a thing instead of sitting down like normal. We're advancing. We're advancing ourselves now. I welcome you to another program which is called Bricky Mildly Rants about a thing that was on his mind and that you get to deal with. The latest
that's my entire
episode being
YouTube
on
channel.
Joel from The Last of Us, a video that you can see here. You see, I don't have any impressions that I'm a particularly potent content creator. By that I mean, I don't think I can formulate my opinions or explanations.
This is completely random, and it has nothing to do with the video, but is anybody else just kind of like sick and tired of just like the word content creator? Like, do any of you hear the word content creator and you just want to just throw your computer out the window? It's like content creator TM. Content creator restricted. Like, it's just like, I get so tired of hearing that word. It's so overused. It's like, I get that's what I do, but I don't think of it that way. Like, I just hang out with friends, and I take it semi-seriously. Obviously, I would not be uploading daily. Hi, YouTube. Hello, everybody. Like, obviously, I would not be going as hard as I did if I didn't care about it. But, like, I feel like it's so, like, I don't know. It's overused. It's kind of cringy. It's content creator. You create content. It's like, I just like cringe inside every single time that I hear that word. So, yeah.
Many others in my field. I don't have the intelligence of a Dan Olsen or
Jason,
Anderson.
it's waiting. Hello, friend. How was your time? And Debbie Delight, thank you so much for the raid, Rudy, Chicken Rudy. Thank you so much, friend. Hello, Charm. Welcome in. Hello. How are your Debbie Delight games? Did everything go well? Go well?
Third Race Vic, all channels I thoroughly enjoy. I'm working on it, of course. Stagnation in content is a pretty good way to kill a channel, but I don't want to pretend I'm somebody I'm not.
Dex, it is
like
Tuesday.
The spot I've kind of carved out for myself. Just enough insight to be more than a normal review, and just enough memes to keep people engaged. However, if I do pride myself on one thing, I think I have some pretty okay rants. If Warhammer has taught me anything, it doesn't matter what
most of this is your editor, not you.
If you yell and you scream with enough gusto, enough power in your chest, someone is going to find you extremely persuasive, either as an ally or an enemy. So when I see an opportunity to rant, I plan to take it. Let's talk about the completely objective concept of video game balance, fun, and the interaction between the two.
The game is fun.
So when we discuss these concepts, I want to talk about fun. You know, this is going to be a high and mighty video when I'm trying to define fun this early into the video, but fun is obviously not something that's easily defined, and it can mean a lot to different people. Whether it's a satisfying gameplay loop, a sense of accomplishment, a narrative that you really enjoy, unlocks, etc., your fun differs. But I want to go deeper.
Usually it's the mixture of those things.
Think about the sense of identity that a game or say choices in the game invoke. Say you're playing Overwatch.
Is that true, Overwatch gamers? Is that true?
Like Tracer. The fun, the identity of Tracer is to be a pest, to move extremely fast, be tricky, do a bunch of damage at close range, be hard to hit, dip in and dip out. That's the Tracer identity. In Titanfall 2, the Legion Titan is a gigantic off gun attached to a robot, and the identity of that Titan is sustained powder fire. And while it may not be the most effective Titan in the game, it's still the feeling you get. This can be brought down to an even simpler level. Guns in COD even have identities.
They do.
The fun you create is invoked entirely by what you want the tools of the player to do. The problem, exacerbated by multiplayer games specifically, is that in order to invoke a certain feeling of fun, a certain identity, sometimes that will lead to some extremely aggravating cases of poor balance.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
I don't consider myself very good at Overwatch, but I got my way to Masters or whatever because I loved playing Roadhog with his busted hook. That character's identity was on full display as a massive off tank that punished those out of position exceptionally hard so long as I had the proper aim, or whatever you'd refer to as proper aim.
That's why I continue to play Hillbilly and Hunters, even though a lot of survivors know how to like easily play against those characters, and then there's a lot of counterplay to those characters, because the feeling of like hitting a satisfying hatchet or hitting a just barely hit curve, that feeling of happiness I get from those will always dwarf every match that I have had where it's gone wrong. I will always come back to those characters because the satisfaction I get from doing the things that are difficult with them are so satisfying that I literally can't stop playing them. Like literally, like I will always play those characters even when I have horrible matches, because like that feeling is just something that I can't replicate, and it makes me feel good, you know? So it keeps me coming back, even because they're fun. Like I don't like, since we're talking about fun, like they're just fun. Even if like I'm not getting results all the time, they're fun. They're very, very fun to play. So I would just continue to play them, you know?
Roadhog. No, I'm not.
And like that's why I don't play artists. Like we played artists yesterday. Time of recording, we played artists yesterday, and I was literally like, because we were talking about like why don't you play artists, and I played one artist game, and I was literally just putting one bird at one end of the loop and me at the other and getting free hits. I was bored out of my mind. I was literally asking you guys straight up, I'm like, how is this fun to you? How is this fun to you? Because like literally I'm not doing anything really. I'm just kind of like putting bird here, putting me here. Like there was not anything thrilling or exciting about what I was doing. I was just getting results for very little input. So like on the flip side with like artist, I don't play her because she's not fun. Because she is just kind of like pea-brained. Like some of her shots with like slingshotting, getting cross-map shots, shotgunning, like there's a lot to that character. But like, you know, for the most part, it is just I put bird here, I put myself here, and then I get the free hit, you know? And I just don't find that thrilling or engaging. Because there's no, like, it's just not fun for me. So I just don't play her.
His nerf wasn't justified because it was. So the hitbox was way too problematic overall. It led to a ton less fun on the other side, the other team. But when you decide instead to create Bridget afterwards, which, yeah, just maybe you went a little too hard with the identity part of that one when you chose to identify her with the pronouns war and crime. But despite that, creating a good character identity is important as it affects the gameplay loop and lets players gravitate towards.
This is looking really promising so far. I'm excited for 6.
This will create, well, maybe not balanced games, fun games. However, in the pursuit of balance, sometimes that identity you created will be compromised. I think the nerfs that Roadhog received were justified and didn't really ruin the character. He is still who he is, as they just reined in the jank. But my heart goes out to the fucking Doomfist fans out there. I don't pretend to know how to play that man or anything, but I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
That's how I feel watching Overwatch in general.
To Doomfist,
I don't know what's happening. There's a lot of bright colors and yelling.
How he operated in the game, and changing him may have solved that problem.
I completely agree, Toto. Like that's why I'm so like, you don't see me add a lot of new characters to my general like rotation of characters that I play on Killer, because so many characters feel samey. The Knight is just another form of artist, another form of dredge, like that whole archetype, right? Like every character is so derivative of each other at this point that like I just don't get excited for Killer releases anymore. You know? Like I know we say that meme of like, oh well, they're like this character or they're like this old character, you know, like they're kind of like Demo and this character together, you know, like we say stuff like that, but that's not a good thing. Because I can just go play Demo. If I really want that experience, I can just go play Demo. I could go play Demogorgon. So having so many characters just be like just derivatives of each other, I don't know. I don't think that's a good thing. I think it kind of makes the things feel stale. I feel like what makes Killer samey is that they all run the same things. Yeah, like the meta being kind of like ironclad and having like, I guess that is a good point, because like there are certain characters that have really good synergies with their power based on like a perk, right? Like obviously Plague has really good synergy with Corrupt because of the way she infects gens and stuff like that. And I don't feel like there's just not a lot of like situations like that in the game. Like a lot of perks are just generally good and don't really like offer a lot of synergy with specific things. So, and the powers are, yeah, it's also the powers are boring. Like the powers are, when every power becomes like a derivative of each other, like he's saying in this video with like his Roadhog example, it's like if you start to you lose the sense of identity, right? You start to lose the sense of identity to these characters, and having that sense of identity is like what draws a lot of people to that character. I mean, like, you're a Legion main. The sense of identity. Am I a Frank main? Am I a Julie main? Am I a Joy main? Am I a Susie main? What, even on those characters, what is my favorite cosmetic? What is my favorite lore for each of these characters? Like, there's a lot of identity to be had with being a Legion character or a Legion main, you know? That character is very appealable. Like, I don't feel like Knight, like, I'm like, okay. You're just like worse artist. Cool. You know, like it's just something.
It gutted his identity in the process. Shit, let's walk down the dark, damp stairs into the olden days of League of Legends. Aurelion Sol was a baller space dragon with an extremely unique kit when he first came out, utilizing rotating stars of various ranges to deal damage. He was a squishy mage that relied on being close, but not too close to your enemy, and finding ways to maintain that distance.
There you go.
A super weird concept, but a fun one. Problem was that despite him not being incredible overall, pro players were able to abuse him to such a degree where even though the majority of the population couldn't use him effectively, it made him catch some nerfs. But instead of maintaining that
Nurse? You mean Nurse? You mean Nurse in DVD? Where the average player that just picks up Nurse can't get results, but like people who actually put in the time, even not a lot of time, but even a little bit of time, can suddenly just start completely just destroying the survivors for no reason. That sounds similar.
Soul, they gave him a massive rework that now makes him feel like just a shell of what he was. The fun that we had with the identity of Aurelion Sol was axed.
One of the goals was to enhance his dragon theme. And what do dragons do? Well, they breathe fire, of course.
I find that
love that
more
meme.
and
Oh,
more
so
games
much.
will have balancing problems of some sort, and the balancing pass tends to kill the identity that made it fun in the first place. Another example, because I'm still mad about it, the Tyranids in Warhammer. They had an ability revolving around their adaptability. That's like their thing. The ability to adapt to the enemy they're fighting and have it shore up
Not
their
Xenomorphs.
weaknesses. But because Tyranids were too powerful, they forced you to have it written into your list before you even saw your opponent's army. You know, so you can no longer adapt to your opponent. That's literally the point of Tyranids, and it really wasn't the reason why the faction was crushing people, because they still are, but they lost that fun Tyranid style identity to them. Perfect balance in a game is always something that's desired, but I feel like that it might not actually be a good thing.
Objection.
I want to argue for the opposite. Obviously, removing any major outliers.
Hey, Alpha.
Things
Is this
that
Alpha
are
2 or
so
3?
breaking the DB hotfix, but the essence of an
yeah,
unbalanced game, I think, makes it in a way more fun,
Noob
so long
dibs.
as the identity is preserved. For example, let's go back to
That's what everybody says about Dead by Daylight. That's what everybody says about Dead by Daylight. It's like when I look back and I see like 2017, 2018 DBD, it's horribly unbalanced. Horribly unbalanced. It is a god darn mess. I look at that game and I'm like, that does not look fun to play. That looks terrifying. The map setups, the perks, the characters, like this looks horrifying. I do not want to play that. But like the people that were playing back then always tell me it's like, yeah, but it was fun because it was unbalanced. It was fun because it was so wacky and so much weird stuff could happen match to match that like it literally felt like a unique experience every time you played. It felt unique and interesting because matches were so wild, because things were so unbalanced. And it's you know, unfortunately it's something that I just like, you know, I didn't live through that part. I didn't join DBD till May of 2020. So I just never know. I'll just never know that. I'll never experience that. So I don't know. I think that's something more for you guys to that have been through that to kind of like, you know, talk about, I guess. But it's not something that I have personally experienced. So I wish I could have a horse in the race, but I don't know. Was it? Or was it actually always frustrating? Like, I don't know.
Titanfall 2 is one of the best FPS games of all time. It's a gem.
My brother
of a
played
title.
this a lot.
It is not balanced in the slightest. And not in the like, oh, some of the best games of our childhood, Modern Warfare 2, weren't balanced at all. But like back then, you can kind of get away with worse balance because times were different. Titanfall 2 is not that old, and it is it is not balanced. Argue to me that this game is balanced, and I'll respond with a Jesus photo speaking the words of Stimcar and Monarch Titan. But if we take, let's say, Big Daddy Scorch, objectively the worst Titan in the game, and yes, you know I'm right. I don't care how much you love him. He's objectively the weakest. He still serves a function. Scorch is area denial and short-range burst damage. It's really hard to get it in.
It's hard to follow a lot of his analogies when he's in like 12 different games,
and scenarios,
and like I haven't played all
open,
these.
and he just won't get his damage in. But he wasn't changed to suit those means. His kit wasn't adjusted in a way to make up for that weakness. He was given
like this video is well done so far, but like imagine if like going to somebody who doesn't play DBD and being like, oh yeah, old Ruin Undying was terrible. So first off, there's Ruin, and Ruin regresses gens when you don't touch them, which is already really, really good. But now there's Undying, which is a hex that you know, it responds the totem once, but back in the day it used to respawn the totem infinitely until you got the perk. So you potentially have to break 5 totems. So you would have Ruin up, regressing the gens, and you had to break 5 totems to get rid of it, and it was really strong. You imagine saying that to someone who like doesn't play this game? You imagine saying that to somebody who doesn't play Dead by Daylight? That's like what he's gone through like 4 of these examples talking about like an old Ruin Undying situation in a different game, and I'm just like, huh? What? Hello?
To help him out, but he is still fundamentally Scorch and had a diehard group of players exactly for that reason. Despite being the worst Titan still in the game, he wasn't worse by a massive margin.
This is literally Billy.
Still incredibly fun, and he maintained his identity without having to massively rework the character.
That's literally Billy. That's literally Billy. Literally Billy is like Billy. Nobody's playing Billy because he's good. He's like a low B at best. Like he's not very good. People play Billy because they love Billy, because Billy's fun, and Billy does have a role, you know? People play him, despite the nerfs, despite the fucking, you know, issues that go into that character, right? Like how much they've nerfed him, like people still play him because he's just fun. He's just a hoot.
Titan, whatever. How about another option? A metagame can be created entirely due to the aspect of imbalance. Top tier weapons
Hey,
and characters
Siege!
reign supreme, which can change the
I get this one.
landscape of the game itself. This leads to unintended side effects, like certain weapons or characters that normally
You don't play him
weren't
because
that
he's
good,
ugly? Well, that's
finding
sometimes
a
why I
place
ignore your
because
comments.
they are a counterpick against that OP thing. My favorite gun in Destiny 2 is Malfeasance. It's a gorgeous hand cannon with a trait where 5 consecutive shots will detonate 5 explosives attached to them. Now, this naturally makes it pretty good for some PvE
I was kidding, I
scenarios,
wasn't.
but pretty bad for PvP, where enemies tend to die far before those 5 shots. However, Warlocks use their ability called a Rift to give them a little bit of extra damage or healing, and they would put on this fancy helmet called the Stag.
Stop.
The Stag would make them
explaining things for
tankier
random games.
in that Rift and allow them to take fights that were overall just, they really should not have taken those fights. They would have died much easier. I found a place for Malfeasance dealing with those Stag Warlocks. The meta evolved further where tons of overshields utilized by Titans were prevalent. Malfeasance was an excellent choice against them, who would get overly greedy and then find themselves insta-gibbed by the explosions. Tons of roaming supers making their way into the game. I use it to deal with them from range. Build crafting, both in co-op and competitive
How many
games,
games has he brought up
wildly
and
change
gone
due
really
to
in depth
imbalance, and
about?
that keeps the game feeling fresh.
Was this like the fourth or
and
fifth
promoting
one?
discussion. They say that all press is good press, and when there is a rallying hatred for something overpowered in a game, or at least discussion around it, the game is firmly in people's minds. Hell, memes are created regarding that imbalance, which keeps people talking.
Yep.
If everything's the same and perfect balance is achieved, I think it just ends up being a bit boring to think about.
I mean, like, think about it. He's not wrong. Like, I've built an entire channel based on how wacky and imbalanced DBD is. Imagine if DBD was just balanced. What would I talk about? What would I talk about? I mean, just look at my content in general when 6.1 went through and Killer got a lot better. A lot of my content was based about talking about, like, how a lot of, like, there's a lot of struggles with playing Killer in this game, right? 6.1 went through and fixed a lot of the issues I had with playing Killer in this game. If you look at my content, there was a clear shift of, like, I need to do more. I need to be more general with my content when I analyze in this game, because, like, one of the biggest things I used to worry about had a lot of, not fixed, but, like, a lot of things were improved measurably with the role that I focused on. So it was like there was a lot less to, like, talk about, because, like a lot of the things that I found upsetting about Killer were, like, you know, they fixed with, you know, kicking pallets faster, lower speed boost for a survivor after you hit him, like, stuff like that helped a lot. So there's, like, a little moment, there was a little period there, I was like, oh god. like this is, it's a little bit more difficult to make videos, because, like, they actually did balance something fairly well, and it removed a lot of the things I talked about with the game. Now we've, you know, the meta has evolved, and now we're finding new issues and all that stuff. But, like, that's what keeps, that's what I talk about. That's what I talk about, both on here on the Twitch and on the YouTube. You know, that's what I talk about all the time. So it's like, he's right. Like, if a game's fully balanced, it can get kind of boring. I mean, look at, oh my god, I'm so sorry, Dex, but, like, look at VHS. VHS has some unbalanced things, but for the most part, it's a fairly balanced game, and it's kind of boring. It feels, like, inherently kind of sweaty, because everything is so just, like, geared to be very, very, like, stable, I guess. Like, everything's supposed to be stable and relatively balanced, and nothing's supposed to be crazy stronger than the other. And it just kind of leads to this very sterile environment, you know, that results in a less fun game. So, he's not wrong.
Malfeasance is a pretty mediocre PvP pick, but it has its place and it has its identity, and for that I love it more than any other meta weapon. Same reason why I love, like, Cerberus +1, because in a crazy hectic gunfight, yeah, your time to kill might be something specific, but that's a perfect time to kill. What if you're missing shots? I got too many barrels, I'm not gonna miss my shots. Now, despite all of this, limits should obviously be put in place.
But it's only 300 people, it's hard not to be sweaty? Do you think so? Do you think the lower player count of VHS, like, lends itself to more sweatiness? Is it just because like, because there's less players, like, the only remaining players are obviously people that, like, care about it a lot, and, like, obviously care about being good to a large extent as well? Is that kind of like the thought process? Because I think that makes sense. The gameplay on the monster end has always looked extremely boring. It is. That's what I wanted to main that game, so that's why. Sounds like why VHS isn't doing so hot anymore. Yeah, because like VHS, you know, VHS, like what VHS needed to do, like I've said this, I've said this before till I'm blue in the face, but VHS's problem is they didn't give a clear view of what they wanted their game to be. So they tried to like kind of pitch it as this kind of like casual game that anybody can get into, but it's kind of not. It's kind of like a super balanced, sweaty game, which is fine because you could do that, right? Like you could do that and build the whole like popularity around it, around like tournaments, around like competitive play and the excitement of competitive play. But like they didn't do that. They kind of like was like, no, this is an alternative ASIM for everyone, when it's not. That's the thing I always hear from VHS gamers all the time is like, you just got to put a lot of time into the game to enjoy it, to get results. And that is more indicative of a more like sweaty game, correct? That's more indicative of a sweaty game that you needed to invest that much to be able to do anything, right? Like VHS players always like use that excuse as like a, like, oh, well, no, it's still good because, you know, you just didn't put enough time into it. You just haven't soaked as much of time in the game. And that's why you can't do anything. That's why you're not having fun. I'm like, to me, that's like, that's not a defense. To me, that's not a defense. That's a sign that like the game advertised itself as like a casual game when it's not. And that alienates people when they come into a game expecting a casual experience and it's actually just a competitive experience. If VHS was more like forward with like, hey, this game's kind of intense. It kind of takes a really, really long time for you to be able to like get results, to do well, to have fun. And here, look at all these pros that we have playing the game. Look at all these tournaments we have set up and how exciting this is when you get to that level. And people will grind that. You know, people will grind that. If you like run tournaments or have like pro players and they see that and they follow that and they go, wow, that was hype, or wow, that was crazy, you know? People will want to go do that themselves. People will also want to go do that. People want to partake in that. So they will grind it out. But for some reason, they've kind of like stuck to this idea that they're a casual ASIM alternative, and that's kind of not what the game is. They also have zero marketing budget. Yeah.
In games, and they should be if it helps achieve a better semblance of balance overall, so long as they don't step on the toes of what made it fun in the first place. Now, I'm sure right now in your mind, right, you could think of a time in insert game here where the thing you loved had to get nerfed or buffed in some way that ruined why you loved it. My poor Stockholm Syndrome League of Legends fans can think of many a reworked champions that probably go into this list. And hey, if you want to tell me about some of them, please, you know, put it down there, you know. I know this has been sort of like a poorly formulated topic, but I'm worried that people online push changes quicker than should be made. Yet no game developer in the history of working has ever said, yeah, guys, I think we should definitely make our game less fun so it can be more balanced. Nobody ever says that. Everyone who makes games know that the fun is number one. But I can imagine sometimes when the online discourse is just fervent, when every tweet is hit with a nerf X instantaneously, level heads might weaken, and a quick fix is implemented just to get those people to shut up. I don't think they know that's what's happening, but I know I've been subconsciously swayed by idiots on the internet before. You are not immune to propaganda. I just have been like
the vocal minority. Yeah, it's like the vocal minority. Yeah. Like we've had like DBD has a very loud player base, very, very loud player base. I mean, like if you look in the forums for like 2 seconds, you'll find people complaining. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to bonk the mic there. You'll find people complaining about Pig. You'll find people complaining about Pinhead, complaining about like even like Trapper, like you know, like people complain about everything. Like, and these characters aren't even like top 5, top 10, right? But like if you just looked at the forums for 2 seconds, you would think that like, I don't know, I guess this Pig character is really super strong, right? Because it's like people are so loud, you know, and people are so like upset all the time, and they want you to listen.
About all the past League reworks when I used to play. Look at all those that landed and all those that didn't. It made me realize that almost all the games I play or used to play are pretty unbalanced. Like Destiny, League, Overwatch, Titanfall, Dead by Daylight, For Honor. Like my whole range of titles struggled with balance a ton. Yep. Some kept their identity and some didn't. And figuring out the differences is really fun. Okay, so
I think that's the problem with DBD right now, and I feel like that's why so many people are leaving the game or not having fun with the game anymore. I feel like DBD is kind of losing its identity, because DBD at the end of the day is a party game. And we should, you know, look at things that are a little too strong. Like Old Deadheart was a perfect example. Old Ruin Undying, perfect example. Those were perks that were way too strong. They had no place in the game. They had no place in the game. But like when you start looking at everything from a balance perspective, and MMR in a party game, Toto just said MMR in a party game, it's just like you start shifting the identity of the game more towards a sweaty environment. And I think that's like where a lot of our distresses with Dead by Daylight have come from in recent memory, is that like the environment, the culture around Dead by Daylight is changing. It was a fun game that was just horror themed, that we could go run around in. You win some, you lose some, and it's a wildly unbalanced game. I think in general the game is moving towards a more sweaty competitive environment. Like every pub game is sweaty to some extent. Even if it's not the whole team, someone's trying hard, right? Whether it be the killer or one survivor, somebody's gaming. By and large, most of your matches, somebody is sweating. Somebody is gaming every single match. It's the culture of the game is shifting away from being an ASIM, like a casual ASIM, towards something more sweaty and intense. And the game is losing its identity. And a lot of people don't jive with that. If you want to comp sweaty ASIM, go play VHS. Go play VHS. And I think this game is losing its identity because it's essentially forcing the public, the casual audience, to partake in sweatier, more intense gameplay. They're forcing the casual audience to partake in a sweatier, more intense style of game, when the reason they love Dead by Daylight and the identity of Dead by Daylight up until this point has been a casual ASIM. Where, yeah, we should adjust things that are a little too strong, but for the most part, we just let things be wacky. And I think that's why a lot of players are leaving the game.
All right, I got on Fortnite a bit ago. Someone told me about the no build, and I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And it was actually pretty good. I was kind of surprised at how decent no build was. But there was the Dragon Ball. Oh God, how does that one guy say it? That like Dragon Ball Kamehameha thing was so ludicrously unbalanced. It was nearly an insta kill, and it's just so dumb. But I remember it being just an absolute blast with how stupid and fun it was, that I kind of didn't really care. In a weird way, like having a boogeyman is almost fun. A character or a gun in a game that everyone can kind of rally against and hate on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not good when just hate it on the person who's using it, but it feels sometimes kind of nice to have that like connective glue in the community. Shit, I look back at like For Honor.
Like everybody looks at Nurse and everybody's like, Nurse is just miserable. Nurse is pain. We all know that, right? Just like when we see a brand new part, we're like, that's kind of gross. It's really gross. Like we all know that. There's not really a whole lot of discourse with those, right? And we all agree on those things for the most part, right? Like 95% of people are like, yeah, Nurse is the strongest character in the game. She's pretty strong. She's kind of dumb. BMPs, why are they still in the game? So stupid, you know, like, and we can talk about that, right? It kind of brings us together. He's right. Do you think a casual versus ranked mode would help? I think it would. I think it would. I used to not be of that opinion because everybody's like, yo, they're splitting the queues. But I think that if they're wanting to move the game more towards a competitive environment, I feel like we need some sort of way for the casual audience to opt out. Like the people who just play casually, they need a way to opt out. Because they need a like that's not what the game is. The game's not a competitive game. It's really not. And if you want to force it that way, like you do you, fam. I mean, there's tournaments run for this game all the time. But like I now, somebody who has zero interest in tournaments, thinks comp DBD is a joke. Like, I have no interest in playing comp, but now I'm being forced to play in sweaty ways reminiscent of comp. I have tunneled and camped more post 6.1 than I ever have in my entire DBD career. I have tunneled and camped more after 6.1 than I ever have in my DBD career. And it's because the culture of the game is changing towards that sweat. And there's no way for me to opt out. There's no way for me to opt out. I don't enjoy camping and tunneling. I find them pretty unstimulating because technically camping and tunneling is very small brain. It doesn't, there's not really, it doesn't really take thought to do it. It's just more of just a decision, right? Like there's no skill to camping. You're just hanging out. There's no skill to tunneling. You're just, oh, that person come off hook. I follow them, right? There's no skill shots there or anything exciting. but it's what you got to do to win sometimes. I've been forced in so many more situations to do that now, because otherwise, like, everything just snowballs, and I have zero fun. You know? And I hate that I'm in that position now where that is such a common thing for me. And there's no way for me to opt out of playing in a way I dislike. Right? There's no way for me to opt out of fighting those players that are so sweaty, are so intense, that they force me to counterplay in a way that's like, I don't find interesting. You know? So, yeah.
About like Orochi, the little weeaboo samurai guy, and the stigma that went with him, and it was just kind of fun in a, you know, weird way. I don't know. It was enjoyable. Hell, I mean, Mass Effect, right? Mass Effect 3 even found a way to fix this without literally adjusting anything. In the third game's multiplayer, there were absolutely maps and enemies that were best for farming credits. Firebase Glacier was—
I don't think so, Toto. I disagree with that. I don't think you wouldn't be able to have a 4-man in ranked. As a matter of fact, if anything, they should be in ranked. That's where they should be. They shouldn't be in casual. I don't... No, yeah, there's plenty of games that have, like, you know, teams with their MMR with ranked. That's... I don't agree with that.
really small, and the Geth were the easiest of the enemies. It was really easy to just load up Geth, load up Firebase Glacier, and speed run through it. But instead of saying like buffing the Geth or changing the Firebase Glacier map, they just gave you incentives to go random. You got extra experience if you chose random map and extra experience if you chose random enemy. Why make these massive changes to all that stuff when you can just say, hey, just don't pick them, pick random. We'll give you more stuff for it. Sometimes just incentivizing people to use other things is all you need to help adjust the metagame, even if the metagame is Mass Effect 3's multiplayer economy.
That's what barbecue was. That's what old barbecue and chili was. Tunneling and camping is always the better answer. Tunneling and camping is always the more efficient choice to win a game. But barbecue and chili literally gave you extra blood points for pressuring the whole team instead of one or two people. Like, barbecue and chili literally rewarded you as a perk with more extra blood points for, you know, not playing in a super sweaty way and playing in a more balanced way. That was literally a perfect example. And then they took it out. Really makes you wonder what they're thinking sometimes.
There are die-hard players in tons of different kinds of games that are entirely focused on playing the fun, mediocre pick. And if you try too hard to make that fun, mediocre pick something it's not, you might make a more balanced game, but you make a less interesting one. And some of the best games out there are not balanced at all.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned,
Third Strike is not balanced at all.
Massive emphasis on sticking to an identity.
It's fun. Very
and
fun.
Foremost,
Very
is
fun
more
game.
important than any
Not
level
all,
of
yeah.
balance you can achieve in the game. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I know it's a bit of a random one, but I just wanted to regurgitate my thoughts just out into the ether and discuss this kind of stuff. Also, I hope the new setup, me standing up, isn't too bad overall. I mean, hopefully it's all right, but you know, I'm still working out the kinks in it, you know. There's just some lights here and there. And a quick question from Mega talking about all the different kinds of audible sponsors.
Okay, I think, like, I don't know. I think with this, it's like, I think he's right that, like, we shouldn't hard focus, because, like, I feel like he's definitely right. I don't think we should give up ever on balance, because balance, like, especially for stuff like Old Dead Hard and Old Ruin Dying that I mentioned, like, there's, like, having those stay in the game for the sake of fun, I was not the hugest fan of, right? I would not want those to stay in the game, but, like, we shouldn't overbalance everything, because, like we're seeing, it's like DBD's moving generally more towards a sweaty culture and environment, like, period, right? Like, it's moving towards a more sweaty and a sweaty culture in general, and it is kind of gutting the feelings of, like, what it means to play DBD, what is fun in DBD, because everybody is, you know, trying to play more sweaty because of MMR, because of the 6.1 changes, like. It is changing the identity of the game, and I do think for worse. So, yeah. I think, like, it's better to, you know, not look too hard into making everything balance all the time, and just kind of, like, focus on the outliers that are too extreme. You know, and DBD, unfortunately, seems to always find their way into having a lot of those, right? But yeah, that video was something. he was all over the place with that. I kind of, like, I didn't dislike it, but I was kind of hard to follow because he was just like really all over the place with like what he was trying to like really what he was trying to convey. He was like, hey, let's just explain like the meta of like 5 or 6 different games super in depth while I'm trying to make a point. So I kind of lost what he was trying to get at sometimes, but it was good in general.